Good morning, everyone. Come on in. Just typing in my phone number here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, 𝐂𝐨𝐦𝐦𝐞𝐧𝐭. Good morning. Ramesh. Good morning. Joan. Good morning. Welcome in, everyone. Hope you're having a great morning. Instagram, good morning. YouTube, Suzanne on Facebook, good morning. Come on in with your questions. Eva Mary, good morning. All right. My name is Chidolue, and I am an immigration attorney here in Atlanta, Georgia. I represent clients all over the United States with their immigration matters. We handle family immigration, so that's marriage-based cases, cases where you're filing for your children, your parents, siblings, fiancé visas, consular process, all of that good stuff. We also handle VAWA cases, trafficking cases, which is a T visa, U visas, which is victims of a serious crime. We also handle removal proceedings. So would love to assist you if you are experiencing any of those, or for any of your friends, feel free to share our page or our live so others can tune in. And if you're a first timer and you're not following us, follow us, like and subscribe. My name is Aisha, as I said, and our phone number here is 678-325-1037. You can also call 678-233-2170, or you can schedule your consult on our website directly, which is ChidolaueLaw.com/booking. So let's just jump right into it. I saw a question here where someone, Eva Mary says, always looking beautiful. Thank you so much. Michi, thank you so much. I appreciate that, guys. Thank you. Thank you. There was a question someone was asking. Let me see if I can still find that question about VAWA. So someone is asking, what documents do you need to apply for VAWA? Well, I guess it depends on what is the basis on which you're filing. So if you're filing for VAWA based on you being a victim of abuse by a U.S. citizen or green card holder spouse, so 10-year green card holder spouse, some of the things that you're going to need to prove, one is that you have a qualifying marriage. Qualifying marriage basically means that your marriage is legit, and you actually got married and any other previous marriage has been terminated. This is something that's a recurrent issue, especially for those who have had a first marriage before this marriage, and that divorce did not take place in the United States, most especially people from Nigeria. So if you're from Nigeria, I'm calling you out to make sure that you ensure that any divorce decrees that you obtain from Nigeria is legally valid in Nigeria. If it's not legally valid in Nigeria, it's not going to be legally valid in the United States. The problem is when we talk about paperwork, and one of the things that happens in Nigeria is whether that document is properly done or not in Nigeria. If you're in Nigeria and you divorce someone and you don't do your divorce properly and you're still in Nigeria and you marry somebody else in Nigeria, that's fine. It's not illegal. Like polygamy is not illegal in Nigeria, right? But it is illegal here in the United States. It's not permitted. So all marriages must be terminated and terminated properly before you can marry someone else. If not, that marriage is no longer a qualifying marriage. So again, this is something that I stress, every once in a while because it continues to be a problem, which I don't get because myself and so many lawyers have been ringing this alarm for years. Like, get your divorce done properly. If you know that you filed for divorce in Nigeria and an attorney was not the one filing it, you already know that it's invalid because it's literally not allowed. Only an attorney can file a divorce in Nigeria. And I'm referring to those people who had registry weddings in Nigeria. And then I also don't get people who both live here with their ex-spouses and then they're filing a divorce outside of the United States. If you live here and your ex-spouse lives here, the divorce should be done in the United States. So at least you know that you're going to get it done properly. So be forewarned about that, because that is not going to go away. That is going to continue to be the #1 challenge for most people coming from Nigeria who have had other marriages where the divorce took place in Nigeria. So, I don't know, obviously, Ramesh, I'm assuming you're not Nigerian, but I'm just throwing that out there based on a challenge there. The second thing you need to prove is that you have a good faith marriage. So it's not just enough that you have a qualifying marriage, but you also have to prove that your marriage is genuine, meaning that you and the spouse, you did intend to build a life together. Like, this is a genuine marriage, but unfortunately, my spouse was abusive, right? Which leads to the next thing. So you want to provide documents proving that, then you want to provide documents, or evidence of abuse. Abuse is a core requirement for VAWA. So you want to show extreme cruelty or abuse, which extreme cruelty is the same thing as abuse, just, a compounding or a pattern of just a whole bunch of stuff, which combines together to make it essentially abusive. So you want to provide any evidence, any credible evidence that you can provide for that. And then the next thing is, of course, you want to provide proof that the person in question is a U.S. citizen or a 10-year green card holder. Sometimes victims don't have that information, but they are certain that their spouse is a U.S. citizen, for instance. In those cases, we usually do a request to verify with USCIS, giving them as much identifiable information of the person so that USCIS can find the person. And sometimes just from asking clients for evidence, we will find other things where we're able to identify where the client was born. There are some states where even the marriage certificate will say this person was born in X, like in Texas or something like that. Like, this person was born in Texas. And if we have that without the, let's say, the birth certificate or like a passport, we can always say, okay, these are all the things we have. This is the person's social security number. This is the person's date of birth. This is most likely where they were born. Verify that this person is a U.S. citizen, and then USCIS takes it from there. The other thing that you're going to need to prove or add on is proof of good moral character. So you have to show anyone over 14 has to show good moral character for the 3 years preceding your application. So, and what is the easiest way to do that? You want to get an FBI clearance search where you've run it through the FBI and they're providing clearance. If the FBI has your fingerprints on certain crimes or whatever it is, or incidents with law enforcement where you had to be fingerprinted, that you need to provide evidence or documentation of what happened with those cases. So those are called court dispositions, what happened with those cases. If you came into the country and you filed for VAWA, for instance, less than 3 years before you applied for VAWA, then you're not only going to need the FBI clearance, you're going to need to get a criminal clearance from wherever you came from, wherever you were living, like to clear that you don't have any crimes back then, those, within that timeline. Again, a lot of similar to a naturalization application where they're looking at good moral character for 5 years. So while they have this timeline, they can choose to go as far back as they want if there's a pattern of certain types of criminal conduct or criminal activity to show maybe no rehabilitation, or this person hasn't really rehabilitated themselves. But generally, this is going to be the window in which they use. Okay. Leo says, any updates on the 75 countries? No updates. John Bell, good morning. Shirley, Charles says, what's going on with VAWA now? What do you mean what's going on? What exactly is the question that you're asking? You have to be more specific. Why is an I-485 not getting approved right after the I-130? But that's always been the case for some people. It means that they're doing some admissibility check on you. That's just all it means. Some people get their cases approved back to back, like same day or a day after each other, a week after each other. This is not new to this administration, but if your I-130 has been approved, which means that they believe you have a good faith marriage, there are many reasons why your I-485 may still not have been approved or is still delayed. But without knowing your immigration history, I can't make an assessment. So I would need to know your immigration history to make an assessment. And if you were one of the people where the only issue was that you submitted your stuff before April 27th, when they put that pause to run the new, you remember, like, they put the pause because they wanted to get the new fingerprinting system or whatever it is, then you're just going to have to wait, for your process. So if it was in April, when May, June, July, after 90 days, reach out to USCIS and find out what is going on with your case. We are definitely seeing some more of those. We've kind of started to compile our results and we post them on Friday. So on Friday, if you go to my page, you see some of like this week's results, but we are seeing like some of those people who their interview happened then, they're now finally getting to them and their own process, including people from banned countries. So those are people that are moving here in the United States. And I know many of you from there ask, so the flags will be there so you can find your country there if your country is there. Can I be approved for a green card if I have an asylum case? Yes, you can. If you attend your interview and everything goes well with your green card based on marriage, which is what I'm assuming you have, they can generally approve you, which we've had that happen to many clients, and then they withdraw from the asylum. But make sure you have a good asylum case. If you have a frivolous asylum case, that can also be problematic for you even in your marriage-based interview, because your marriage-based interview, they do ask you about what your basis of asylum is. So be prepared for that. Dami says, good morning. What is the earliest response time for an I-751? Is it normal to get a response of a scheduled interview for an I-751 barely 4 months after submitting an application? That's not normal. Let me correct myself. That's not the norm, but that's great. If you're saying that you got an interview 4 months after submitting your I-751, that's wonderful. You'll be done with the process before you know it, as long as you can prove that you had a good faith marriage. But for most people, it takes about 2 to 3 years for I-751s, or what they do is they will, if they're eligible for the N400, they will do their N400 so that they can get a decision. There are many duplicate questions about the ban in African countries, or the ban outside of the United States, or the partial ban outside the United States. I'm not really responding to those because I'm sure you know that there's no updates. If there was an update, I'll let you know. And there are people asking me about my guess. I don't think it's a fair question because I don't make the decisions. So I don't want to guess anything. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. If there is something that comes up, you guys know that I will tell you. You don't need to ask me. I will surely tell you. So, if you don't mind, those questions, they're repetitive. I have to keep repeating them all the time. There's no update on that. Only on the United States front. And the update on the United States front is that the ban has been lifted. They are making decisions, and I do post the decision so that you can see that the pause has been lifted here in the United States. Granted, they want to appeal it, and I don't know if the appeal is going to, meaning appeal the lifting of the pause here in the United States. I don't know if the appeal is going to be favorable to the current administration, but this is also an example of why, when you're eligible for something and that window opens up for you, you better get to work and get your stuff done. If you're in that window where you were subject to a pause here in the U.S. and because the pause has been lifted and your processing time has gone, and your processing time has gone out of, so you're out of processing time, normal processing time, this is a good time to seek congressional assistance to get a decision in your case. You just want to move quickly and swiftly, okay? Navy says, Do you do payment plans? We do, depending on what kind of case it is, yes. And we also have not just payment plans, we also work with LawPay Affirm, which is, if you guys know, like Klarna, Affirm, buy now and pay later. You obviously have to qualify for it. It takes a few minutes or seconds, and it will let you know if you're eligible for that. So some people take advantage of that. And then we also have two nonprofit organizations, financial organizations that we work with, that applicants can apply for a loan independently with them. And if they approve them, they also use that for financing their case or their filing fee. We've been waiting since December, which was expected since my husband is from Togo. We've completed biometrics, however, we're still waiting for an interview. What do you mean? So did you apply in December? Is that what you're saying? If you applied in December, you're not late in your marriage Bates case. We're in July. That's been 7 months. That's not considered late in any way, shape, or form. So unless you're saying that you've been waiting for much longer, that's a normal wait time. It's been a year waiting for a decision after 3 prima facies. So if you've had 3 prima facies, it means that your case has only been pending for 2 years and change. You are in a normal processing time for a valid case. The first prima facie is going to be 1 year, which usually comes a few months after you submit your file and get receipted if you meet the requirements. And then after that, it's every 6 months. So give or take, you should be about somewhere between 2 to 3 years in there. You are in a normal processing time. Yes, the phone numbers for the office has changed. We've dropped our 407 number. So if you want to contact us, it's 678-325-1037 or 678-233-2170. It should be on all of our social media handles, on our website as well, if you are looking for a phone number. If I'm waiting for a renewal of a work permit under VAWA and I've tried to expedite it, can I show my employer receipt notice showing that I filed it, but the delay is out of my control? You can, whether you show them or not is not the question. The problem is they're not authorized to allow you to work, regardless of whether you have it pending or not, unfortunately. Instead, what you can do, and what we have tried to do for some clients, is we have the employer write a letter basically stating that they will terminate the employment by X date. And we submit that, to show that hardship, in addition to, of course, what they're experiencing with their spouse, to try to get an expedite. I think it's really, really unfortunate that when we know in this current administration that it takes so long, like almost a year, if not a year, for most people to get a renewed work permit, that they cancel the automatic extension for timely refiling. I think that's really mean. And it's unfair. Obviously, this administration wants to frustrate people economically so that they can leave the country. And so it's unfortunate. It's truly unfortunate because, like, what does that do, or who does that hurt when people are working and contributing, in taxes to the American society, and tax and being taxed on their paycheck and all of that. But here we are. Archer, it says my vow has been pending for 4 years and 2 months now. Is there any updates? You're my lawyer. No, I don't know who our trading is. If we are your lawyer, then you should definitely check in your client portal. If you are my client, you should know that you get like a monthly update where we literally post every month your timeline, your processing time, and where you are. So definitely send a message on the client portal if you've not received your July update so that we can check. Generally, we won't do an inquiry unless you are out of processing time because we're not permitted to do one and it's like diminishing return. The only time we'll reach out is if you have a basis for an expedite and we are providing an expedite request to USCIS. Can we get married if we haven't lived together yet but are seeking an apartment? Yes, you can. Most people don't start living with their spouse until after marriage. So you can certainly marry. Just make your plans to live together. And if you are not living together, you have to really, really have a solid reason. You know, I hear different lawyers giving different perspectives of saying, oh, if you don't live together, forget it. You're going to be denied. You know, I can say emphatically and with confidence that so many, not so many. It's not the norm, but all our clients that we filed for that don't live together have had logical reasons why they didn't live together and they were approved. Your reason has to make sense. Your reason has to make sense. If your reason does not make sense, I will tell you in a consultation. Your reason does not make sense. And, you know, if you're not living together, this is going to hurt you. But if your reason makes sense why you're not living together, you should still file. You know, like people have asked me, give examples, and I've given many examples. For instance, like if you're here in an H-2B where you know that you're going from program to program, you know, let's say you're in Colorado doing the program, you don't want to violate your immigration status, so you're there. And then let's say your spouse, because that program is temporary for, let's say, you know, a couple of months or like a year, that person doesn't want to uproot their life from New York, knowing that that is a temporary location and they don't know if they're going to find a job there. Now, if you don't live together, of course, you're going to want to have much more evidence to show good faith. Like, we don't live together, but look at our phone logs. Look at our phone logs. We want to get the actual phone statements showing how many times you guys are talking in a day, in a week. You know, how often are you guys seeing each other? How often are you guys in FaceTime? What else are you doing together? What was your dating life like? How, you know, like, so a lot of all those things, you know, will need to be considered in order to submit a filing saying that you don't live together. But anyway, I gotta jump off. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.